Darling, you have just begun by Dancing Lassie. Chapter 14. It's 3 weeks after Papa leaves that it starts. At first, Ciri thinks it's a bit of indigestion, but the stomach pains continue over several days and she finds herself snapping at everyone. The Witchers watch, unimpressed, when she throws her sword down during practice with a scream of frustration. She's been trying to perfect a particularly difficult drill for the last 3 days, but there's always some small way she stumbles or messes up, and she definitely doesn't look as graceful or as elegant as Geralt and Eskel did when they demonstrated the technique. It doesn't help that even when she's not exercising, she feels unbearably hot and her stomach hurts like it's all twisted up. She's also, most embarrassingly, having some issues with her bowels that see her dropping her sword in the middle of a swing to dash to the privy by the training yard, lest she have an accident she'd never live down in front of her mentors. Again, Eskel demands, arms crossed. No! She stamps her feet. Yes, Eskel insists. I've had enough, I don't feel well! Geralt holds out a hand to stop Eskel from opening his mouth to berate her further. What's up? He asks, crouching before her. Brave of him, given the nausea Ciri is feeling. She sniffs, wipes her running nose on her sleeve. There were some advantages to no longer being a princess. Grandmother would have boxed her ears for using her sleeve as a handkerchief. My stomach hurts, she whimpers. You can't let that distract you, Ciri. Geralt explains gently, pulling her arm away from her face, only to use his own sleeve to wipe the eyes-leaking tears of frustration. Your enemies won't go easy on you just because you don't feel well. I know it's hard, but you have to try and fight through it. One more round, and then we'll go steal a treat for the kitchen. I promise. She nods briefly, resting her head against Geralt's shoulder. It's not the same as seeking comfort in Papa, but there is some reassurance to be had from sheltering in the shadow of Geralt's broad frame. Ciri takes up the sword again and stumbles through one more drill, messing up the final thrust by moving forward on the wrong foot. Come on, cub. Eskel takes her sword from her weary hands. Bath, food, then bed. But Geralt promised we'd steal a treat from the kitchen. Can't break my promise, Eskel. Geralt tells his brother seriously, though his eyes gleam mischievously. Come on, Ciri. He grabs her arm and hoists her onto his back, and Ciri instinctively cinches her legs around his waist and buries her face in his neck. He's not Papa, but he's become someone dear to her all the same. Not the father figure, not yet, but more than an uncle or a friend. She thinks she loves him. She knows she trusts him, and she's positive he loves her too. It's the soft way he looks at her when she tells him about her day or makes up stories. It's the way he patiently teaches her how to fight, pushing when he thinks she can handle it, but carefully tending to her cuts and bruises afterward. It's the way he always checks on her before she goes to sleep, both of them commiserating over the hole in their hearts created by the absence of Papa. Ciri thinks she can now understand why Papa loves Geralt so much. They pilfer honey cakes from the kitchen, then Ciri dutifully follows Eskel's directions and has a bath, eats her dinner, and goes to bed, with Geralt paying a quick visit to check if she needs anything before she goes to sleep. The next morning there is blood on her sheets and nightdress. For a brief moment she panics, but then reason prevails, and she remembers an awkward talk with her old governess about what happens to girls as they grow up, and she realizes what the blood means. However, while she's reassured that she's not injured or dying, she can't remember what she's supposed to do now, and her options for advice are pathetically limited. Just the thought of having to discuss this with Geralt, Eskel, or worst of all, Vesemir, has her turning red with mortification. She thinks she might have been able to tell Papa, but Papa isn't here and she doesn't know what to do. She sneaks out of her room and down to the hot springs, avoiding all Witchers on her way. A bath will not help her figure out how she should deal with this situation, but she'll be clean at least, and that always makes her feel better. She slips into the water as her stomach clenches horribly once more, and all alone she indulges in a few tears. Not many. Grandmother had always told her that tears solved nothing, but even Grandmother had admitted a few tears could be comforting. Are you all right? A solicitous female voice asks her from the other side of the spring. Ciri jerks her head up in surprise. Gwen, Papa's cousin, is sitting a few feet away in the water, looking at her with concerned eyes. Ciri has only seen her once since midwinter. Vesemir had taken her along on one of his visits to the river goddess after Gwen had told him she had a message for Ciri from Papa, letting her know that he'd reached Lettenhove safely and both Mousak and Ike send their love. "How did you get in here?" she blurted out instead of answering the question.
"Through the water below the ground. I promised Jessica I'd watch out for you, and this is the easiest way into the keep."
Gwen gives her a soft smile, and it's comforting, despite the river goddess having just admitted to spying on her. Ciri is used to having people intrude upon her solitude. The life of a princess rarely allows much time for private contemplation. It had startled her, when she first moved in with Papa, that he and Ike both knocked and waited for her permission before entering a room. At the palace in Cintra, servants would bustle in and out as required. They would bend their heads and pretend they weren't there, but that wasn't the same as true privacy. Even now at Kaer Morhen, none of the Witchers would enter her room without permission, and they usually took her retreats to her room as a sign that she wished to be alone.
"What's wrong?"
Gwen inquires, and her voice is gentle and calming. Ciri can't help but trust it as she chokes out her dilemma. Gwen listens sympathetically, moving across the pool to sit near Ciri and rub her back soothingly. "I feel so silly," Ciri admits. "I knew it had to start soon. I'm old enough. It was just a shock."
"Nothing silly about it," Gwen reassures. "I was much the same, and I had my mother and older sisters to lean on. But I can help if you like. I know you might have preferred your papa, or maybe one of his sisters, but I'm here if you need me."
Ciri, as much as she loves her papa, she greatly prefers the idea of having Gwen's assistance rather than his. And Gwen is definitely preferable to Lady Esther! Adelaide would have been fine, but Ciri knows that if she had a choice, then it would be either Ina, with her briskness, or Vida, who is Ciri's favorite of all of Papa's siblings. But none of them are here, and she would far rather learn about what to do from Gwen than have to ask Geralt.
"Yes, please,"
she whispers meekly. Gwen stands up and gracefully steps out of the pool, turning to offer Ciri a hand.
"Let's head up to your room, and we can talk properly there."
Ciri scrambles towards her clothes, but as she pulls them on, she realizes that Gwen has none. This doesn't seem to bother the river goddess, who goes striding out of the room the moment Ciri has wrangled her shirt over her head. Eskel chokes on his drink as they head through the dining room and toward the stairs. Vesemir blinks owlishly at the goddess.
"When? I thought we weren't meeting until next week."
"I came to visit Ciri."
Gwen gives him a sweet smile and continues onward. Vesemir turns back to the coughing Eskel and slaps him hard on the back. They get to Ciri's room without running into Geralt, and Gwen quickly shows Ciri how to use clean rags to line her underwear and soak up the blood, and then sits her down for a more serious talk about symptoms.
"No two women are the same, and we all feel it differently. I have always been lucky. I've never had anything worse than a few light cramps and a bit of moodiness."
She shrugs from where she is sitting on Ciri's bed, wrapped in the soft wolf pelt that Ciri offered her.
"But one of my sisters," Gwen continues, "had an awful time of it. Cramps so bad they used to make her vomit. Headaches, chills, hot flushes. She was almost completely incapacitated once a month. So don't try to be brave and soldier on. I need you to tell me honestly what you've been feeling."
Fiddling nervously with a loose thread on her cuff, Ciri does so. Gwen takes the time to listen and comes up with suggestions for Ciri to try. Hot drinks, a warm towel on her abdomen, gentle exercise.
"Nothing too strenuous, though. No spending hours on sword drills or being tackled to the ground by belly witches."
"But I have to train," Ciri protests. "Geralt and Eskel say that if I can't win at my worst, then I might not survive to fight at my best."
"I'm sure," Gwen sniffs, "that if you were ever to be in a life-or-death situation while menstruating, the adrenaline your body provides in such circumstances would effectively block any discomfort. But training is not life or death, so you can afford to take it easier once a month."
"But then I'll have to tell them what's happening," Ciri moans. Gwen looks at her incredulously.
"They're grown men," she remarks, "and they're all meant to boot. If they hadn't figured out this aspect of feminine biology right now, then it's about time they learned."
"It's embarrassing," Ciri whines. Gwen laughs, but not unkindly.
"Oh, all right. I suppose it is," she agrees. "Do you want me to speak to them? I'm not as intimidating as Cousin Nina, but I'm sure I can impress upon them the need to do as I say."
Ciri sags in relief at not having to have this particular conversation and nods. Then a new problem occurs to her.
But what do I do when it happens again next month? You can't come up every time to tell them. Are you sure you won't be able to tell them? Gwen asks. It doesn't have to be a big deal. If they can't handle you telling them that your period is due, then they can go take a long walk over short pier, and I'll be sure to greet them at the other end.
Ciri bites her lip, unsure.
Oh, well, I suppose you could use some kind of a code. You could let them know that if you say, I don't know, that you dreamed of a red river, then that means they're not to bother you with extra training or wear something red, but make sure they know the code or it's useless. Though really, they shouldn't be so squeamish about you just telling them, and if they are, then all the more reason to do it. This isn't something to be ashamed of.
I'll think about it for next time, Ciri promises, wondering if she'll be brave enough to just outright tell them.
Gwen shrugs off the pelt and brushes a kiss against the top of Ciri's head. Plenty of time to consider it then. I'll go and let them know that you won't be training today.
Geralt is startled when Gwen glides naked into the hall while he is eating breakfast, but not as surprised as he would have been a few decades ago. He is well aware of the river's casual disregard for nudity. He even greatly appreciates it when it's his own river god. Gwen. He greets her warmly and offers her a bowl of porridge, which she gratefully accepts. It's nice to see you again. Any more news from Jaskier?
None, I'm afraid. But I'm here to talk about Ciri.
What about her? Eskel asks with a forced, casual tone. His eyes begin to flicker automatically down, but stop themselves just in time. Not that Geralt thinks Gwen would care if Eskel did look. She shows no self-consciousness about lounging around in just her skin, and if anyone did try anything, she has enough power in her dainty fist to teach them the error of their ways.
Ciri has just started her first period.
All three men freeze awkwardly. Eskel stays that way, spoon raised halfway to his own mouth, as he stares, gobsmacked, at the river goddess. Vesemir tries to act like he hadn't frozen at all, and deliberately starts chewing his food again. Geralt puts down his own spoon, pushes his bowl away, takes a deep breath, and reminds himself that in the absence of Jaskier, he has sole parental responsibility for Ciri. Is she okay? He needs to get the most important question out of the way first.
She's fine, Gwen assures him. She got a bit of a shock, but that's normal.
Geralt nods, relieved. His mind spins as he asks himself what he needs to know in order to make things easier for Ciri in the future. He's never spent enough prolonged time with a woman to ever have to deal with this before. He doubts Eskel has either. Vesemir... Geralt doesn't want to know. Is there anything we should do? Any way to help?
He decides to keep the questions as general as possible in the hope that Gwen will reveal all pertinent details without him having to prod. She's having a bit of a miserable time of it, Gwen admits. Soothing drinks and gentle exercise only. Don't let her push herself just because she feels the need to impress you.
All right. Eskel finally manages to put his own spoon down. That's easy enough. Anything else?
By the time Gwen is finished,
the three of them have been thoroughly educated in this particular aspect of female biology. Gwen is meticulous and has a sadistic streak to her that Geralt had not foreseen. She seems to enjoy their clumsy, fumbling questions and expressions. She gets up to leave once she's sure they won't flounder without her. Eskel rises as she does. Thank you, my lady. He gives her a small bow. If you hadn't been here for her, then I shudder to think how long it would have taken us to work out what was going on. No doubt you've saved us all a great deal of grief. Gwen waves off his thanks.
No need for all that. She's practically family. I'm so glad Jaskier brought her to my banks. It's been so long since I enjoyed such life by my waters.
Geralt adds his own thanks anyway, then goes to the kitchen to make a hot drink of honey, ginger, and lemon to take to Ciri. He knocks tentatively on her door, and she calls for him to come in. I brought you a drink. He stands uncomfortably in her doorway. She looks no different than she did yesterday, but he can't help think that something monumental has now occurred. If Ciri were still at court, this would be a massive deal. Proof that she was now a woman able to bear children. A step closer to being married off to provide future heirs for Cintra. Now all it means is that his and Jaskier's little girl is growing up. Thank you. She gestures him into the room, watching him carefully from behind her hair. Gwen said it might help with... He trails off, not sure if he should name it. Would that make it odd? More odd? He's so bad at this. He wishes Yaska were here. Ciri surprises them both by raising her head imperiously and informing him in her haughtiest princess tone. Gwen says you're an old man who should be able to say period without getting squeamish, or she'll throw you in her river. Or something. She bursts out laughing at the end, and Geralt can't help chuckling along.
Well, she's right, I suppose. Just allow the poor awkward men you live with to stumble through it initially. We'll get there.
She pats the space next to her on the bed, and he joins her. She leans into him, clutching the mug he brought her to her chest. Can we have a lazy day? She asks.
Of course.
Geralt agrees.
What do you want to do?
She reconsiders this. I want to stay here for the moment. She peers up at him. Can you sing me that song you sometimes sing? It reminds me of Papa.
Song?
He asks, startled. Yes, the one you sometimes sing when I'm falling asleep. Geralt had thought Ciri had been sound asleep the few times he'd felt confident enough to sing her the half-remembered lullaby his mother used to sing to him, the one with the kingfisher that always brought Yaska to mind. He clears his throat self-consciously, but does as she asks. How does the rest of it go? She murmurs once he's done.
I don't know. I can't remember anymore.
We should make it up, Ciri tells him. Then we can show Papa when he comes home.
I suppose we could try.
Geralt says doubtfully. He has no illusions about his songwriting talent, but Ciri's eyes have lit up with enthusiasm, and Geralt doesn't want to crush it. It's amazing how far out of his comfort zone Geralt is willing to go for her and their river god. Come on! Ciri clambers off the bed and hauls him to his feet. Uncle Vesemir has some poetry collections hidden at the back of the library. We can go look for inspiration. By that evening, they haven't made much progress, though Ciri seems to enjoy his rather feeble attempts anyway, if her giggles are anything to go by. Dinner that night is full of laughter, as Ciri excitedly tells the other two witchers about Geralt's lyrics. After they've cleared up, they relax in front of the fire, Vesemir soon falling asleep, while Eskel and Geralt try to fleece each other at Gwent. Neither notice when Ciri finally manages to complete her long ongoing quest to sneak a sip of White Gull, the potent witcher brew, which is both a base for their potions and a pleasant way to pass an evening. Geralt only notices that something is wrong when Ciri stiffens at his side, back as rigid as a board, and the cards on the table begin to shift as if blown about by an invisible breeze. Geralt twists round to his ward in alarm and turns Ciri to face him. Unfocused eyes stare back at him, but they quickly sharpen with malicious intent. Did the little godling run away? That same voice that has haunted a few of Geralt's nightmares since it first spoke through the princess hisses with glee.
Ciri!
He cries in alarm, shaking her a little. Eskel has stood up and come round to stand behind him while Vesemir jerks awake and gets to his own feet.
What are you?
Eskel demands. Poor, pathetic Eskel. The voice sneers. Still so untrusting. Still haunted by that incident by the Dupa.
How do you know about that?
Eskel's voice doesn't shake, but Geralt can tell it's a close thing. He wonders what happened to his brother near the Dupa. I know you. I know all of you. I know everyone. And sooner or later, everyone knows me. Even your precious little river god. The voice turns back to Geralt. No matter how many incarnations he goes through, one day the last drop of water in his river will dry up, and then he shall truly know me. Geralt snarls at the threat and instinctively shakes Ciri again. The girl's eyes roll back in her head and she collapses into his arms. Silence reigns over the hall. Get her to bed, Geralt, Vesemir eventually instructs, looking harrowed. He does as he's told and gathers Ciri up and carries her to bed, tucking her under the covers and instinctively singing her the lullaby she had requested earlier. It feels wrong to loiter in her room while she's insensible, but he can't bring himself to go back to his own room. He ends up in the hallway, sitting on the cold hard ground, his back pressed firmly to the wall next to her door. It's here that Eskel finds him, or rather almost trips over him.
I've sent a message to Tris Marigold,
he informs Geralt, who raises his head in alarm.
Don't start,
Eskel warns.
We are far out of our depth, and your river god already admitted that he can't help. It's time to explore another avenue, and if we've got to trust a mage, then I'd trust her. Whatever grudge you're holding against mages, it's time to put it aside for the sake of your child.
Geralt's head hits the stone wall with a thud, and he is quite tempted to continue slamming it against the wall. Surely that will be less painful than having to explain to Yasker why he's going to be sharing the keep with the sorceress.
Your river god is just going to have to get over it.
Eskel correctly guesses his thoughts.
Don't make light of this,
Geralt warns him hoarsely.
You weren't there when he was almost destroyed by a sorceress. He's got so much power, Eskel, and you know how mages can be. She bound him, was leeching him of his power, torturing him. She stabbed him with an iron dagger. It nearly killed him. I was almost too late. If I'd got him to the river even a minute later, then he'd have been lost to me forever. It took him so long to recover, to get back to me.
Eskel sighs, but while he's still not Yasker's biggest fan, Geralt doesn't think his brother actively dislikes him anymore.
We'll keep an eye on both of them. We can make sure Yasker is never in a room alone with the mage, and if needed, I swear I'll step in to rescue him. We have a while to get him used to the idea. By the time Triss gets the message and makes it all the way up here, it's probably going to be autumn.
Geralt swallows a lump in his throat, and he's roiling in his stomach. Ultimately, Eskel's right. They need help, and that means letting a mage in.
What did the voice mean?
He changes the subject.
What happened to you by the dupa?
Eskel slides down to sit next to him. He looks weary. It was about a month before I came back to Camorin. Griffin hunt, but it went wrong. The blasted beast picked me up and started to fly off with me, but I managed to stab it in the wing. So down we went, straight into the dupa with that fucking griffin on top of me. Eskel closes his eyes and clenches his teeth.
I couldn't tell which way was up, or how to untangle myself in the feathers, and while I struggled, I could feel my time running out. We rush by death so often. This shouldn't affect me so much, but I swear I thought that this was really it. This was how it ended for me, drowning in that fucking river.
Geralt clasps his brother's shoulder.
Of course it can affect you. We're not emotionless, no matter what the rumor mill says.
He thinks of Yasker, who decades later is still affected by his own drowning. He thinks, strangely enough, of the goddess of the dupa, whom he's actually met on a few occasions, and wonders if he should arrange for her to receive a bottle of wine as a thank you for not being his brother's grave.
Are you staying here all night?
Eskel changes the subject, and Geralt lets him.
Yeah.
He confirms. Eskel nods and makes no move to get up. Inside the room, Ciri sleeps soundly, while outside, two witchers keep watch, exchanging tales until the small hours.